All right, everyone. So we have another video from MathWiz. This one talking about the power of flawed friendship in Hunter x Hunter. Now, this one should be pretty interesting. I'm guessing specifically they're probably going to talk about Gon and Killua's friendship, which to me is honestly one of the best things about the series. I love how well written it is, and I also love how Killua just grew from his friendship with Gon, how he's changed over time. I loved it. I loved what Togashi did. So let's go ahead and watch this video. And as always, guys, you know what to do with YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, check the description for links, and let's go ahead. Oh, and I guess, you know, as I say, spoilers. So if you haven't seen Hunter x Hunter, or if you've, I don't know if they're going to talk about the manga, basically everything after the anime, where the anime ends. But I'm guessing that there's probably going to be spoilers there. We don't know. We'll see.
Darkness
but yeah, spoiler warning.
and light. Two opposing forces that are simultaneously dependent on one another. Without light, there can be no darkness. And without darkness, there can be no light. These concepts are often used in accordance with some sort of conflict. Good versus evil, purity versus corruption, hope versus despair. They represent a fundamental contrast in ideals that cannot exist in the same space, and as such, they are destined to collide. Yet there will always be a space between those extremes. Ironically, the core of the black and white dichotomy isn't division, but unity. It's about reconciling the light and dark aspects of life and reaching an ideal compromise. Because regardless of how people present themselves, everyone has a bit of both inside them. Everyone has their own individual perspective that informs their actions. And because of that, the idea of a light and dark relationship is inherently multifaceted. The goal of any connection, be it platonic or romantic, is for each half to support and motivate the other, compensating for weaknesses and accentuating strengths. One character's trauma may act as the basis for comparison, but that doesn't make their partner a being of pure light.
No.
Failing to recognize that could be disastrous, as placing another person on a pedestal can leave their insecurities uncared for, their bad habits unchecked.
Which is very, very interesting, because this is something that definitely happens. You know, you have someone who will make a connection with someone, and it gets to a point where they, you know, like it was just said here, they'll put them on a pedestal and they just see them in a certain way. And whenever someone comes along and says, you know, something that's akin to a criticism about that person, they'll just outright reject it because they refuse to believe that this person has any flaws. And even if you walk up to them and you try to tell them that you know, this person that, you know, they're not as great as you probably think they are. They do have flaws, and it's not like they're like bad flaws or anything. Nothing too dangerous. Just that they do have flaws. Because remember, they're a human. Of course, they're gonna have flaws, but they're not gonna believe it. They're not, because they've already built this idea of this person in their heads. And whenever someone, or even if they themselves notice something, they'll do everything they can to try to push that out of their minds, because they don't want anything to ruin the view that they already have of this person. And we don't just people don't just do this with other people. They do this with anything, honestly. Just for example, let's say they have this view on something, anything, whatever it is. They already have their set view on it, and anytime someone else comes in and tries to present new information that challenges that, you immediately start rejecting them, because you don't want to believe that this view that you've built on whatever it is incorrect in any way, shape, or form. So anything that comes in that challenges it, you're quick to reject it, and it could lead to let's just say some unhealthy behavior. And so now unhealthy behavior, like it depends. Like sometimes it's a little bit unhealthy, or sometimes it's really unhealthy. It depends. It depends on the person.
Mutual trust often brings people together and lowers their defenses, which is why when a companion does something hurtful, even if accidentally, it cuts deep. The power of friendship shines radiantly in most circumstances. It is a beacon of encouragement that promotes empathy and personal growth. But like all things, it too can possess dark qualities. Hunter x Hunter is structured in such a way that splits the four main characters into two distinct pairings, both of which have beneficial yet toxic side effects on the individuals involved. Gon is introduced as the Sunshine Child, who inspires a lowly shadow like Killua to change. His honest and open nature enables him to accept the young assassin without prejudice, and he even goes out of his way to bring Killua back from the Zoldyck Mansion after Killua had been coerced into doubting the strength of their bond. From there, Gon becomes the savior of light that Killua depends on as he continuously devalues his own importance. Gon may be reckless and stupid, but with Killua there to clean up or sometimes even prevent the mess altogether, they make a perfect team. Ambition and intellect, curiosity and caution, a brilliant balance of youthful potential, but only so long as the light burned brightly. For if Killua could not escape his own darkness, and if he could only get by off the radiance of others, he would never be someone else's guiding light. Gon can be a stubbornly loyal brat, but to flip that coin,
again, that was
he
part
can
of his
also
journey.
be incredibly selfish and ignorant to Killua's feelings. The dodgeball game is a case where Killua's dedication to Gon both physically harms himself and validates Gon's selfishness. But as this was a product of Gon's ambition, at least he would benefit. When these conditions repeat during the palace invasion, however, it's not a result of ambition, but of hatred. You have it easy. You can be perfectly calm. Kite's death means nothing to you. Gon's inability to cope with his own...
I still remember this. Yeah, this definitely did hurt. And here's the thing, like, you notice that all throughout the Chimera Ant arc, like, Gon was changing. He went from being this like happy-go-lucky kid to slowly starting to change, and I think it's because he was introduced to just what the world is actually like. And we did I think we talked about this in a previous video, or it was mentioned in a previous video, where the thing about Gon is that he, like, the way Togashi wrote him, he wrote him like a kid, someone who's kind of oblivious to the world and what it's actually like. And the thing about the Chimera Ant arc, and you could say even a little bit in Greed Island, is that he started to realize just what the world is actually like. And I think that that's something that Togashi did brilliantly, because when he wrote the antagonist for each arc, like Greed Island and even in York New, and in the Chimera Ant arc, is that he could have easily written them as just the typical shonen villains, where it's all about them. They don't care about anything else. There's nothing more to them. They're just doing this for themselves. Instead, no, that's not what he did. He wrote them as multi-layered characters, where, look at Merwin, for example. Like, even though he's the king, he's not selfish. His goal involves his entire race, because he even says it to oh god, what was his name? The president of the Hunter Association. God, why am I blanking out on his name? Shit. Sorry, but okay, you know who I'm talking about. But he even tells him this, like, I'm the product of my entire species' work. Like, their ambition is to create the perfect being. Like, I'm that. If I fail here, then I'll be failing them. All of their effort would have been for nothing. And so if he's doing this because there's part of it, like a big part of why he's doing this is because, again, he wants to make sure that all of his kind's efforts, all of their work, were not in vain. And then, of course, you have the royal guards, and they do everything for the king, and they do things that you would not expect from like what you would expect from a monster, as they see it. They would think that, they would never care about a human being, but Komugi is a human being. Netero, that's his name. Sorry, it just came to me. Netero, that's his name. She looks at Komugi, and she could have easily dismissed him. I'm talking about Pito, but, well, technically it's not she, because Pito's genderless, because ants or whatever. So whatever. Pito, I'm just gonna say that Pito could have dismissed Komugi and could have acted like what you would expect from a monster, and looked at humans as, no, it doesn't matter. But no, that's not what Pito does. They look at Komugi, recognize that this is someone important to the king, and because I care about the king, I will do everything I can to save this person's life. Because I care about the king, and the king cares about her, I will save her. and you realize that there's more to them. And again, that's something in my opinion Togashi does really really well. And same thing with Genthru in Greed Island. Like you could say that he's like typical, or he could have been like typical shonen villain, again all out for himself. Instead, no, like when the opportunity came to for Gon to use, I can't remember what it was, breath of something, the card that can heal. When it came to healing him, he specifically said, no, heal my friends first, then heal me. So that shows you again that he does care about his comrades. And again, like that's to me the brilliance of what Togashi did with Hunter x Hunter, is that the characters in this world, they're actually multi-layered. They may be antagonists to Gon, but they're not villains, if that makes sense. Meruem started out as a villain, but he became an antagonist. Like he grew over the course of the arc, and I think that's why Meruem is considered one of like Shonen's best written antagonists, because he's so well written, because he actually grows. Like there's moments, some of the best moments of the arc are with Meruem. Like he's so interesting to watch, and he's so interesting to listen to, and it's absolutely amazing. And again, I think this is the reason why people are so willing to wait for the manga, even though it's been on such a long hiatus as of this point. I think it's officially been on its longest hiatus ever, but people are still willing to wait because they know that when it does eventually come back, and I know there's people out there who think that it's not going to come back, but when it eventually does come back, we know it's going to be worth it. At least, good God, we hope. Good God, do we hope it's going to be good.
Own darkness leads him to lash out at Killua in his rage.
And oh, sorry, I completely forgot the point that I was trying to make. But Gon, yeah, he realized that the world isn't what he originally thought. That it wasn't as black and white as he originally thought, or what a kid would normally think of the world. You know, there's good and then there's evil, and they don't think that there's anything in between. Like there's different shades of gray right in between. And Gon, like he started to realize that in the Chimera Ant arc. And I think that one of the reasons why I think a lot of people kind of want Gon to come back is maybe because they, other than just, you know, like there's people who want him to come back because they want to see him like work to get his Nen back. They want to see him maybe go out and find Killua, or maybe go to the Dark Continent or whatever. But I think that a lot of people kind of probably also want to see just how much Gon has changed. You know, like how does he see the world now compared to how he was before? And I think that could be like a good segue into him getting his Nen back, because we know Nen is connected to a person's, like who they are, their personality. So I think that Gon having a new outlook on life could also affect his Nen, or maybe Togashi's going to keep it the same, except it's going to be more nuanced. It's going to be more refined than it was before, as opposed to just let me charge up my punch and hit you. And you know, like that, he could go that route, or he could go a completely different route. Like maybe he's going to be a transmuter this time, or an emitter, or what's the other one? You have enhancer, transmuter, conjurer, and what was the next? A manipulator, and there was a fifth one. What was it? Enhancer. But you know what I mean.
And unlike before, no one benefits from this interaction. Gon chases vengeance and nearly gets himself killed. Killua's sacrifices for Gon amount to nothing when it matters most. The strict divide of light and dark crumbles. At the end of the election arc, Killua accepted Gon's gratitude, where he had previously told Palmony Kalgo friends shouldn't thank other friends. This demonstrates that he had grown to question his image of Gon as infallible brightness and recognize the faults he possessed. While Killua didn't consider himself worthy of Gon in the past because of this illusion, he did in that moment. Similarly, Gon's gratitude serves as an apology for his own misconceptions. Killua was not an empty void Gon could transfer his problems to, and Gon had taken their relationship for granted. It's one thing to rely on a friend for help with something Gon himself wasn't capable of, but he went too far. If it wasn't for Killua, and this is a truth he's shown to understand in his conversation with Kite, Gon would be dead. But that's what makes them even. Killua owes his life to Gon for pulling him out of his darkness. Gon owes Killua his own life after being pulled out of his darkness.
Literally, like he was basically dead at that point.
So while yes, their friendship had a toxic undercurrent to it, it was also mutually beneficial. And by the end of the anime, that negative dynamic is almost completely resolved.
Mhm.
Maybe not entirely, as Gon's Nen reset could be representative of his need to improve on his own, but he's also not in a position where Killua feels obligated to protect him, like in the Chimera Ant arc. If the bonds between peers are what guide them towards self-
Yeah, exactly. And again, see, this is again one of the reasons why I kind of really want Gon to come back, because I want to see how much he's changed. I know there's people out there who argue that Gon shouldn't come back because if you think about it, the story doesn't really need him to be like the focal point of the story. And while I do agree with that, I don't agree with Gon never coming back, like at all. Like literally until the very last chapter of the manga ever that Togashi decides to write, Gon will just never make an appearance. I don't think that's the case. I think it's, if you've read the chapters that were released before the hiatus, it's like actually and before they were on the ship, it's like there are things that Togashi did set up for Gon to come back. One of them being, I think that Gon is probably going to want to, at the very least, go see Killua again. Maybe not so they could go on another adventure together. I think he probably just wants to see him again, just as, just to visit, just to catch up, see what's going on. I don't think they have to worry about what was it? I don't think they have to worry about Illumi because he's also on the ship and he's on his way to the Dark Continent. And based on what Togashi said about the Dark Continent, there is a chance Illumi's probably not going to come back. So I don't know. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I know a lot of people are probably not going to be happy about that because Illumi is, like Togashi did also set up that Illumi will try to get Aluka and her power, because it is pretty OP when you think about it. Or actually, he's going to try to manipulate Killua because Killua can actually talk to Aluka, and Aluka actually likes him, and she does things for him. So I don't know if we're gonna actually see I don't know if we're actually gonna see Togashi follow through on that storyline, but we'll have to wait and see.
Actualization, it could be argued that Gon and Killua's dynamic has reached its apex, or at least something close to it. Killua is able to roam free with Aluka, no longer directionless, while Gon must find a new path to follow now that he's found Jing. They don't need to be in the same space depending on each other at all times to know that they'll always be friends. And when these boys do eventually reunite, they'll likely use the insight they've gained to amplify each other's strengths more than ever. And when they do, that's when they'll truly reach their peak. Leorio and Kurapika have a similar but still distinct dynamic. In a way, Leorio is to Kurapika what Killua is to Gon, though the context is different. Leorio isn't smart enough or strong enough to totally stop or clean up a mess that Kurapika creates, but he acts as a support beam nevertheless. His gullible foolishness is contrasted by Kurapika's stern skepticism, yet it's his kind heart that keeps him stubbornly reaching out to the solitary chain user. Kurapika generally isn't as dumb or childish as Gon, but he still gets in over his head and overexerts himself at times. Not only that, but he's very aware of his own darkness, going so far as to cut people off to avoid dragging them down with him. This is what makes Leorio, the man who wants to become a doctor and thus lives to sacrifice himself, the perfect foil to our beautiful blonde bastard. While Kurapika can provide Leorio with the power that he lacks, something which really only benefited him in the Hunter exam so far, Leorio can provide Kurapika with the stability that his dangerous and chaotic lifestyle lacks. This is evidenced by his role during and after York knew, where he was the one taking care of Kurapika when the latter's adrenaline shut down and he inevitably crashed. In saying that though, they are far less dependent on each other compared to Gon and Killua, and with Melody around to serve a similar purpose, it's not as if Leorio has to carry everything on his shoulders. One might call their relationship more mature in that regard, as they're both older and possess more worldly knowledge than the young boys, but that might be giving them too much credit. While Killua is ultimately stronger and more capable than Gon, the gap in their power gradually seemed to decrease as the series went along. Meanwhile, the gap between Kurapika and Leorio's abilities is tremendous, so there's only so much that Leorio can do. For as much as Gon might have insulted Killua at his lowest point, he at least showed remorse for his attitude. Kurapika hasn't been as extreme, yet, but he's still trapped in his own world. Killua does get rewarded for his efforts in the end, but what about Leorio? Even in the Succession arc, he brought Kurapika into the Zodiacs and made it easier for him to pursue the Scarlet Eyes. Leorio has given so much of himself for Kurapika's benefit, but most of what Kurapika has done since the exam is indulge in his own ambitions. He made the Dark Continent ordeal a bit less awkward for Leorio, briefly, and then he left again. He might say that he's grateful, but considering his pattern of behavior, he hasn't done much to show it. And in that sense, their relationship might be even more toxic than Gon and Killua's. If anyone deserves better, it would be Leorio, right? Of course, I'm talking about two characters whose arcs aren't complete yet, so this predicament will resolve itself eventually, much like Gon and Killua's
Well,
did.
that's going to happen when, the manga eventually comes back.
And a happy ending will be achieved. Or Togashi will scar us all and kill everyone. None of this is just...
I think he might have been just, trolling when he said that. Or at least, good God, I hope he was trolling.
Say that Hunter x Hunter doesn't still abide by a more typical power of friendship mindset. Jing's whole message at the end of the anime is about remembering to appreciate the friends we made along the way. So I'm not going to pretend that the series deconstructs this theme that is so integral to Shonen Jump narratives. The climax of Yorknu is a perfect example of real human connection being more valuable than the things we desire, and it's one of my favorite plot developments in anime. To quote the great scholar of our time, Hiro Mashima, the power of friendship isn't as lame as you think. For all
Okay, that was something, and I know that's from Rave Master. Fuck, at least he didn't use Fairy Tail. Jesus Christ.
all the problematic or cynical ideas a work could boil down to, what's wrong with being optimistic? Imbuing one's work with a concept that simple doesn't make it uninspired. It doesn't negate any other topics we might consider deep. Like any other trope or cliche, it's as impactful as its execution, and I generally find myself gravitating towards action-adventure titles because they're so adept at handling it. Where Hunter x Hunter happens to excel is in crafting relations where unity isn't solely positive and doesn't solely lead to power, which I find fascinating. There are no beings of light or darkness in an equal partnership, and any bonds...
So sorry to pause real quick, but just want to say something real quick on the whole power of friendship thing. Again, like I said, it's a good thing he showed Rave Master, not Fairy Tail, because I think that was when, in my opinion, the biggest example of when power of friendship is used poorly. Like literally, anytime someone tries to argue that the power of friendship always works, it's never been done badly, just show them Fairy Tail. Literally the prime example of when power of friendship is used poorly, because Jesus Christ, I have lost count how many times in that series someone gets a power up because they remember they have friends. Someone could be on the brink of death and then they remember their friends and immediately they get a surge of power that just conveniently happens to be enough to take down whatever opponent that they're going up against. It's insanity. Like, it drove me crazy. It drove me to the point where I cannot stand Fairy Tail. I can't even go back and watch the parts of the show that I thought were good. I think it's all bad now. I don't even... I can't stand these characters now. I can't stand that story. I can't stand that world. I don't know what's going, because I don't think Mashima's a bad writer. Again, he wrote Rave Master. I've seen some of it. I haven't seen all of it, but I liked what I saw. And from what I've heard, most people say that it is a good series. And Eden Zero, I did read it, and it is good. It's good. It's not bad. It's definitely better than Fairy Tail. But I don't know what happened to Mashima when he was writing Fairy Tail, because my God, that series was awful. It was absolutely awful. There's no excusing some of the shit that happened in that series. Sorry, I just wanted to say that real quick. And I also wanted to say that, you know, if you want to use power of friendship, it's like, okay, that's fine, but it's like, use it well, use it correctly, as in, if you want to have a character say that, you know, they have friends inspiring them to move forward and let's say do better with their lives because they have friends who believe that they can, that's fine. But if you say that literally a person remembering they have friends can somehow out of nowhere give you a power up that you didn't have, even after you've made it clear that this person has no magic left in the tank, so theoretically they should immediately lose, but somehow remembering they have friends could just fill the tank back up and make it overflow with magic. It's like, no, that is a bunch of BS. And that's what kept happening in Fairy Tail.
Rooted in such a framework will inevitably fail to maintain that unhealthy standard. I call it toxic like that's unique, but all camaraderie can have harmful undercurrents to it. Relationships can be messy. They might start from an unhealthy place of overprotection or overdependence. Maybe certain ideologies don't line up. Sometimes bonds just break down over time. People are complicated, and I enjoy seeing those minor differences explored in ways that result in improvement, or juxtapose a lack of progress against something more hopeful. If there is any vibrance in a relationship, it's something that both parties must create together. And if darkness exists, it must likewise be confronted together. Only then can we improve upon our failures and move forward. Want to see this concept explored in another work of fiction? Check out Bloom Into You, a love story that uses that premise to recontextualize what it means to fall in love with someone. It's cute and wholesome, and one of my favorite things ever. Plus, there's even an interview with the author and editor of the manga that references Hunter x Hunter as the kind of light and dark relationship.
Even in shonen manga, there's an image of the protagonist being light. Right now, I'm reminded of someone like Hunter x Hunter is gone. I believe the light and dark relationship that I use is the definition from the words of Hunter x Hunter is gone and Killua. And so he started from for Nakatani. What sort of light and dark are you thinking about? He says, first, Nanami Toko is molded as a dark heroine, then Yu was born as the character of light that can save her. I'm gonna say it.
They were looking to depict. So you should read it and watch the anime and watch my video. Thank you for joining me for Togashi month. I'm sorry that I didn't have any more Yu Yu Hakusho specific ideas or Level E specific ideas. It kind of just ended up being a month of videos on Hunter x Hunter specifically. So
yeah,
I
there's nothing
apologize
wrong
for that
with
little bit of false advertising. But it's not as if the end of Togashi month means that I'm going to stop talking about Togashi. There will be more videos at some point. I don't know what ideas there'll be. The important thing to take away from this month was not the videos I made or the videos I didn't make. It wasn't about the themes I discussed or the messages. It was all about the friends we made along the way. And I've made some pretty strong connections during my time on YouTube, and I'm hoping that I'll continue to make more as I keep doing this. So stay tuned for more videos. Support me on Patreon if you want to see more projects like this, more endeavors like this. Hopefully now that I've made a month of 6 videos, I'll be able to get back to a more normal schedule, but you know, the journey continues, and we're gonna appreciate the detours along the way. So I'll see you next time.
This feels like a good enough place to end it on, but yeah. Okay, so that was a good video, and yeah, definitely showing the friendship between Gon and Killua, and of course Leorio and Kurapika, and how, just again, like I said, in my opinion, just how well written it is. Like I feel like I'm not saying anything new here. Everyone kind of already knows this, but Togashi, man, the guy's just good. He's really, really good when it comes to writing characters and everything. And again, I think that in my opinion, I could be wrong here, maybe you disagree, but in my opinion, that's kind of why people are willing to wait, because they know the product's going to be really, really good when it eventually does return. But you know what, guys, I don't want this video to go on any longer than it needs to be, so I'm just going to wrap it up right here. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Remember to leave a like, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. Help me get to 1,000. We're really, really close. Make sure to hit the bell for notifications and leave a comment with a video you want me to watch, but not the actual link. Just tell me the title of the video and where I can find it, because YouTube does this thing where they erase links for some weird reason. And also check out the description for links to the video and the channel. Math was his channel, not mine. So you can go over there and support them. Anyway, with that being said, thank you so much again, and I hope to see you for my next reaction. Bye for now.